Well, I played this patch extensively, including the new Lifeweaver buffs, and here is my Season 4 ranked tier list. Just like last season, I split this tier list into two. The list on the right is based on my personal experience on the NA East servers in top 500 and what I see on the leaderboard across all regions. The list on the left is for everybody else, and this will be based on my observations when doing viewer gameplay reviews, statistics from Overbuff, stats from Blizzard, and a little input from Twitch chat. Remember that these tier lists are just my opinion. You are entitled to your own, and please just use this list to help inform your decision, but don't let the list make the decision. Got it? Let's begin with D.Va. In top 500, I'm gonna put her in A+, and she's one of the big three in ranked play right now. She's versatile and a good answer for all the popular meta heroes in this elo. She's good against Winston, who's also being played again, and she can mitigate an entire pistol clip or pulse bomb from Tracer. She can spy check and kick a Sombra out of invis, and she can contest snipers. For everybody else, I'm gonna put her in B tier, good. Right? She's a good and versatile hero, jack of all trades. Just be careful when playing her because it's extremely easy to feed your entire mech for no reason. Use your booster jet with purpose, like fly back to peel, or fly to hold and deny high ground, or fly to commit and all in, with some follow-up with dive as necessary. Alright, Doomfist. In top 500, I'm gonna say he's A tier. He's another good dive tank to complement Sombra, Tracer, Genji being the other popular dive DPSs. It just sucks when the other team happens to play Sombra, which is kind of holding him back a little bit from being at the top. For everybody else, I'm gonna say he's a good hero in B tier. The data backs it up, and those that main Doomfist are like really good with his ability rotations, and that fast movement can confuse a lot of metal rank players and make them dizzy. Alright, for Junker Queen, for both the lists, I'm gonna put her in good, the B tier. I actually think she's underrated, and she dominates if she has the right comp built around her, such as a Kiriko to prevent anti-nades and a Lucio to fast engage without commanding shout. Just don't be afraid to switch up Junker Queen if she's not working. Alright, for Orisa in all tiers, I'm gonna say she's fallen to D. She's niche, but playable, and even the data agrees. Like here at GM, look at the win rate, and look at all the metal rank win rates. This is all due to that damage fall-off nerf in Season 3, which really affected and hurt her medium range damage and prevents her from converting 200 HP kills if she lands a spear. Zenyatta's Discord Orb absolutely eats her alive, and all the fast meta dive tanks just ignore her, and they've learned how to play around the Orisa. She's also a high resource tank, meaning that you need a support lineup that can keep you topped up as Orisa while you go through your ability rotations. Okay, Ramattra. Here and here. A+. I think he's the biggest winner in all the ranks. A+, due to the nerfs to Reinhardt and Sigma in Season 4. If a dive tank isn't in your hero pool, or your DPS players in rank don't play like a mean Sombra, Tracer, Genji dive hero, Ramattra is a safe and strong option right now. Although Lucio is really nice with him, he doesn't actually necessarily need him, especially in a ranked environment where coordination is a little suboptimal. His movement speed in Nemesis form is so good, and it allows him to chase and convert kills by himself, and that block is of course great to buy time for healing and to stall the objective. Alright, Rein was nerfed in Season 4, right? His overall HP went down along with the less armor, which hurts his durability, and since target focus is a little better in top 500 and there's a lot more echoes running around, I'm gonna put him in C tier. He's not bad, and still viable, especially if you're a good Rein main and you know how to play around the bad matchups. For everybody else, I think Rein is still pretty strong, right? The nerfs didn't really hurt him too much, and the data kind of backs him up. I think that he's still got a pretty solid win rate. Right, Roadhog. He's gonna chill in D tier for both tier lists. I think that one-shot nerf at the end of Season 2 was bad. Like initially players are like, it's bad, but maybe he's serviceable. But like as time has gone on, it's clear how the other tanks are now like way better than him. During Hog's peak, it was all Kiriko Lucio or Kiriko Mercy as the support lineup. And now that Kiriko has been nerfed a little bit, you tend to see a little more Annas and Zenyatas, which are a nightmare to deal with as Roadhog. Those are like two of the biggest support counters, and that will naturally bring him down to the lowest tier in D. All right, Sigma. I think he's still strong, right? for both lists. Despite the accretion nerf in Season 4 that now prevents him from completely one-shotting a 200 HP hero, he's still a solid overall hero and really excels on maps that favor him, like the ones from Season 3. With the map pools gone, his overall pick rate has gone down, naturally, due to the lower frequency of the strong maps in the pool, such as Circuit Royale, Junkrat, and Havana. But when those maps do show up in Ranked, you can definitely still find really good results locking this guy in. Alright, Winston. Winston is back in top 500 as a safe and reliable dive tank with flexible support options and is an A+ here, especially with the rise of Sombra and of course the staple of Tracer as your DPS dive duo. You can see it all over the leaderboard right now and in streamer ranked lobbies. However, I'm actually going to rate Winston in C tier for everybody else. He's not bad, and he's certainly playable, but Winston requires decent healing resources like a good Kiriko or on a sightline, a good Tracer or another dive hero to follow up. And, you know, as a Winston player, you have to be, I would say, pretty good in terms of like knowing what you're doing. If you have a single bad leap or like a really useless bad bubble, Winston kind of just feeds, and he feels like he does nothing. And like, don't even get me started on Primal Rage mechanics. It's really hard to do. Since he requires all these factors and proper execution of his dives, which requires coordination. You played It Takes Two, you know what I'm talking about. Look at Winston's win rate right now in the medal ranks. It's actually criminally bad, criminally offensive, side eye. And all the variables that make him strong just aren't quite there in the medal ranks, and you're better off playing a lower skill floor tank with less Exodia pieces required to pop off. But I mean, at the end of the day, if you like playing Winston and you in voice comms or do it with someone, go ahead. He's like serviceable. Everything is playable, remember, on these tier lists. Okay, Wrecking Ball. He was really good in Season 3, and I actually still think he's pretty strong in A tier. It's just, there is a lot more Sombras walking around now and ruining his day, but if there are no Sombra players, you can totally excel and pop off. But if you see that swap and they're starting to hard focus you, you need to swap. That being said, ball mains are still eating good according to the top 500 leaderboard. There's still quite a few ball mains doing pretty well right now. For everybody else, I'm gonna say ball is, he's still pretty good. He's good. B tier. But the skill ceiling of ball, of course, is really high, and that's probably the biggest limiting factor. And some players probably spend too much downtime setting up and rolling around for no reason, sitting back, waiting for their healers to top them off when they really should be rolling for health packs to minimize downtime, but that's a story for another day. Okay, Zarya has steadily received buffs ever since her Season 1 Zarya watch nerfs, and she's getting closer and closer to being that strong meta choice, and I actually think she's a solid B tier for both lists. I think she's good. She's not a hero I would default into opening a match with, but she's solid as a counter swap option when you face off against, let's say, D.Va, Jungle Queen, or Orisa, because Zarya does play pretty well into them. And if you look at the leaderboard, Asia, the Asian region, seems to favor picking her a lot more now, so keep that in mind. Ashe received a Season 4 bug fix nerf to Bob, where you can't gain all charge with dynamite and your shots while he's out. This is a net nerf overall to Bob frequency and the uptime, since you aren't building it as often. And while that does sound bad on paper, it didn't affect her performance much, according to Alec Dawson when I interviewed him. I guess a lot of Ashe or hitscan mains were not very happy about that bug fix and change, but I'm happy you guys are like discussing it.
I will say probably not as big as a nerf as people think it is, though, in terms of her actual performance.
Right.
I will say that, yeah.
The stats look fine, and the players are still picking her according to the leaderboard, so all in all, I would say she's still good in top 500, and I'd actually say she's strong still for everybody else, because Bob is an extra teammate, and 6v5 is gonna go pretty well for most ranks. All right, Bastion is not bad in top 500 in C tier when played with the right resources, and can absolutely shred all the Winstons and the balls and the Dooms running around. But that being said, he's a very on and off hero, right? He has strong power spikes in his sentry form and is honestly kind of below average when he's out of it. And if the enemy team knows how to navigate around that timing, he can lose his effectiveness pretty quickly. That being said, he's probably a tier higher in maybe B tier for the everybody else list, like he's good, and you're more than likely to have the enemy teams not equipped with the tools to deal with them, because it does require a bit of coordination, and if nobody like focuses the Bastion and metal ranks, you can absolutely shred. Cassidy was the highest tier in Season 3 after his damage range fall off buff, but in Season 4, they have nerfed his HP and some of that magnetic grenade damage. He's no longer S tier or A tier, I think, whatever I made in the previous seasons, but I'm gonna put him in B tier for the top 500 list. Like, he's still a good hit scan option. For everybody else, I'm actually gonna bump him up and keep him in the strong tier, A tier. Because even though Magnetic Grenade did lose some of its punch and it lost the damage break point from 131 down to 120, so you can't do that single shot follow-up shot, body shot to kill him, it's still kind of a cheesy ability, and you can just follow up with like a Fan the Hammer in these ranks and you'll do just fine. So I think this is he's pretty strong still. Or Echo, I think she's a really strong alternative dive hero when you have a Mercy player in ranked. She really excels on certain maps as well, and is one of the more popular options when looking at the two flying archetypes, the other being Pharah, obviously. With the Mercy, I'd argue she's actually very strong, but since you can't always guarantee one, averaged out, I'm going to keep her in A tier. Strong in top 500, and she's actually still pretty serviceable with like a Zen keeping an orb on her, or a Brig throwing heal packs, or an Ana who's paying attention, and honestly, even Lifeweaver. Yes, I actually tried a Lifeweaver Ana with Echo in Skiesi's fundraiser tournament recently, and I actually found some decent success with it because you can actually get in range and pocket the Echo pretty well. For everybody else though, I'm actually going to keep her in the C tier, the not bad tier. Simply due to her high skill floor, and still you have to know how to play all the heroes. You got to be able to duplicate and be proficient when you can, you know, play all the heroes. Be good with aerial movement. It's a lot of finesse to play this hero pretty effectively. Now with Genji, I'm gonna go with a hot take here and put him at B tier for both lists. Like, he's actually good, really. He's fine. The better nerf Genji memes are funny to read in the comments on all social platforms, but like, honest to God, he's actually pretty good, and his win rate is pretty good if you care about that. And that being said, people go like, oh, you can't always look at the data, but I really do think if you put him back to 30 ammo instead of the 24 right now, it'll make him feel so much better to play and could please a lot of people. He's a good option with dive, and he can still assassinate Ana and Zens quite well, and Nanoblade is always back on the menu right now with how popular Ana is, so hey, Genji's cool, man. Just play him. Okay, the other Shimada, Hanzo, also belongs in B tier for both lists. He's a good option that can pump good DPS into Ramattra, the Sig Shield, the Winston bubbles when he dives in. You just have to be really careful to like not get leaped on directly by the Winston. But the problem with Hanzo is that he's like very hot or cold and really player dependent. If you're completely new, he isn't someone you just randomly swap to in ranked. If someone goes like, hey, can you play Hanzo? Like, if you don't have any practice, I would not suggest playing him. Unlike some of the other low skill floor DPS heroes you can instantly generate value with. You gotta put in the reps with this guy. Junkrat is in the not bad in top 500 C tier, and he's probably and he's only played by junk mains right now rather than being like a flex option for non-junk players, so you'll still see a few running around on the leaderboards. His concussive mind damage nerf hurt the consistency of that assassination flank rat style, which is hard punished in top 500 if the Junkrat ever fails to convert one of his sneaky kills. That's bad. You have to shoot a double mine or try to land a third shot, and that's not very consistent. If you miss the one shot, it's bad news. But for everybody else, I will actually keep him in the strong A tier, simply because the spam rat style at common choke points is still pretty good at most ranks, and you can get a lot of random kills there, so yeah. Okay, Mei is more of a situational pick now because she's honestly great in a more like ground-based meta with tanks with like Reinhardt, Ramattra, Zarya, Roadhog, Sigma, to name a few. But because of the lower frequency of like Reinhardt and the higher frequency of the dive tanks like Doom Ball, D.Va, Winston, and some of the dive DPS like Genji, Tracer, even Echo. And honestly, I'm just gonna throw Widow in there. No, she's not dive, but she plays so far away that like both the ice wall and that primary fire freeze from Mei don't really get enough value in your average top 500 game. And that's why I have her in the not bad C tier. And on the flip side, since both Rein and Ramattra are a lot more common in all the other elos, maybe I'll bump her up. Let's put her in good. All right, Pharah is not bad in top 500, but if you're Yazin, right, he's top of every leaderboard of every region, she's probably S++++, but he's the exception. I actually think Echo is the safer and more flexible option for most players here, since she can operate without a Mercy a little bit easier, and you probably have better aerial movement control on her, improve consistency in executing enemies with focusing beam. That being said, this whole Echo versus Pharah thing, I think if you're like really good with Pharah and you played like TF2 and you just really good with the projectile prediction and you have a Mercy pocket, you can still absolutely dominate top 500 games. So just listen to my explanation and rationale here before you come at me with pitchforks saying, KarQ, she's not C tier. For everybody else, let's stick her in B tier. And for the same reasons I listed before, and because hit scans aren't as consistent at taking her out, especially on console where the precision aim is a little tougher. Arguably on console, she's probably strong, but averaged out across all platforms, keep her at B. Okay, Reaper. I actually think Reaper is good in top 500. He's just not popular, but that isn't the main deciding factor or criteria when I put this list together. He can be considered boring for a lot of players in ranked, but honestly, he's objectively great against all the Winstons, Ramattras, Balls, Dooms, and he also has a sneaky style you can switch to assassinate slower backlines like Ana and Zen. You might run into some trouble if the enemies play Tracer, which they probably will. They can, space you out pretty well. If they play Echo, that's also bad news. And if they have a fast support backline like Kiriko, Lucio, you probably don't want to play Reaper. You won't be good in every matchup, but overall, I'd actually still say he's a pretty good hero. For everybody else, though, even better. I actually think he's strong. He can self-sustain with lifesteal, escape with Wraith, provides reliable burst damage in close quarters, and that's all you really need here. Sojourn is an interesting one because she absolutely dominated the first 3 seasons of Overwatch 2, but nerf after nerf has finally brought her down a few notches. I actually think she's good. I wouldn't say she's like strong, but she's still pretty good in top 500. Some players still play her, and they still find great success because they can reliably hit those rails, and good Mercy players who pocket her know when to flip over the damage boost to enable it. For everybody else, though, D tier. Niche but playable. That's right, I said it. The buffs to the other DPS heroes have pushed Sojourn down significantly, and the SMG spread nerf last season affected the less mechanically skilled players by a large margin. And if you can't reliably hit that rail headshot, like, forget about playing her altogether. When you actually look at the stats, it's really quite surprising. She has the worst win rate in the last month across all ranks: bronze, silver, gold, plat, diamond. I never thought I'd see the day where I'd actually ask for Sojourn buffs, but here we are. I would just say don't touch that one-shot rail, because that's for sure really frustrating back then, dealing with that, but you can totally adjust other parts of her kit to kind of put her back in line with the rest of the roster. All right, Soldier is a solid B tier option, top 500, especially with the Cassidy nerfs and the Ashe alt bug fix nerf. It like indirectly moved him up in the tier list in the line. And for everybody else, probably A tier. For the same reasons listed as before, he's versatile, jack of all trades, reliable hit scan, but again, with the reasons listed before with the nerfs to Cass and Ashe, it just kind of amplifies Soldier a little bit more here, since players don't play in natural cover as often, based on my observations, so Soldier can get a lot of good value here. Sombra. Ooh, Sombra's an interesting one because she wasn't really buffed in Season 4, right? At all. Except for that like Mei interaction where you can now EMP or Blizzard. It's just that she was severely underrated all of Season 3 when people didn't realize how good she was with the rebuffed damage per projectile from 7 to 7.5. It just goes to show how it's always player perception rather than an objective look at a lot of what's good or not. But in any case, now she's one of the strong dive DPS choices, and she's played alongside Tracer a lot in top 500, and a coordinated Tracer Sombra with like any combination of Doom Ball or Winston can absolutely dominate the top 500 ladder. Very strong. Everybody else, though, I would say high level play does tend to trickle down eventually, and players I feel are now starting to see more Sombras, but I'm actually going to keep her in C tier. Not bad. I don't have her at strong because I think your average Sombra player probably spends way too much time in stealth and not enough time actually pressuring angles, and probably lack the tracking aim mechanic to reliably whittle down enemy supports. Based on my observation, again, there's too much downtime on this hero running around invisible without any meaningful hack, and there's just not enough presence being felt. The data seems to back it up too, right? An atrocious win rate in like silver here, gold, plat, for example. And honestly, again, it boils down to inefficient play, and people might be trying to force her without the proper composition built around her, like a coordinated dive with a tank or tracer, and asking for dive coordination is not that common for the rest of the player population. Still, she's a good option to swap to when facing a dominating ball or Doomfist though on the enemy side, even without like running a pure offensive dive composition yourself. If you are 5 stacking, for example, though, like please, you can play her. She's actually so much fun when your group is communicating and everyone's on the same page. If you get 3-2-1'd, it's over for them. Yeah, average solo queue Sombra player, no dive coordination, no microphones. I really just think there's better options. All right, Symmetra is good in B tier in top 500. Let's put her here. And I actually think she's strong for everybody else since there's so much fast dive and higher frequency of echo players in top 500. That's why I kept her here at B, but everyone else at A. When Symmetra is played on maps she's really good at, like control map types or first point defense on hybrid maps, I would honestly put her at the top at very strong. Like she's really good in certain scenarios, but she may find less effectiveness on maps where like the fights are scattered in different locations where she can't properly set up her sentries, like on some portions of push. All right, Torbjorn is a great hero to play when your aim is feeling off since his turret is like a free 6th player on your team. But you know, jokes aside, I actually think he's a solid B tier option in top 500 as a really good tracer deterrent, especially if your team has no proficient tracer players of their own. You can just play heroes to counter the enemy tracers since you know they're going to run around everywhere. For everybody else, I'm going to say he's still pretty good. Actually, arguably, he's strong, right? He's got a turret that never gets destroyed. He's got a strong shotgun damage up close. He's super tanky for a DPS hero. Like there's only like 3 heroes that have that much HP on the DPS role, and he's one of them. And an incredibly messy ultimate that can zone enemy teams. So I would say he's strong. Okay, Tracer. She is A+ in top 500. Super, super meta. She's mobile, she's slippery, and is the best flexible dive option to follow up with your tank or to pressure on off angles, even in non-dive comps. She's a low resource hero, so she doesn't rely on your supports, and she can blink the health packs easily. She has a recall. Easily a #1 choice at this rank. I mean, look at this leaderboard across all regions. Enough said. For everybody else though, I actually find it hard to place her any higher than C tier. Like she's not bad for the average player, but you really need to put in the work and the hours on her to understand her effective range, the spacing, the blink management, good aim tracking, timing your engagements, because you can just instantly die with your 150 HP pool, right? You need to know what you're doing with this high skill floor, high skill ceiling hero. I mean, look at the data here. It's not that good in the metal ranks if you're not a dedicated tracer main. There are far more easier heroes to pick up and get good value from if you only have like some time to play a few games every once in a while. All right, Widowmaker, still super annoying in top 500. I'm gonna put her in A+, very strong. She can absolutely control games on her favorable maps. I will say though, it is becoming increasingly harder to play her though, with all this this dive everywhere, but she's still getting pretty decent play time across all the leaderboards, so I'm actually gonna keep her at very strong. But arguably you can put her down to strong, but I'm gonna keep her very strong because I hate Widowmaker. For everybody else though, she's I would say she's like not bad. It feels awful when a Widow player is absolutely owning and no one is dealing with her, but she's not as consistent as the highest ranks. One tip I have is that your average player, your average Widow player on the enemy team who's probably stuck in the metal ranks will likely shoot from very predictable angles and not reposition as often as she should. So as long as you're aware of that, you can force her off those positions with a multitude of heroes, more heroes than you think. And you don't necessarily need to challenge her back with a sniper of your own. Awareness is the key here, and don't give Widowmakers a reason, or don't respect Widowmakers unless they give you a reason to respect them. If they're popping off, okay, you got to play around it. But like some Widows are just whiffing everything. You know that meme, 6 shots, no kills? You can test the waters, and if she's not good, you can easily just like pressure her out with like long range Kiriko kunais, flank Moira, Zenyatta. Ana can even peek her. The list goes on. All right, and now we're on to the supports. Ana, very strong right now, especially with the nerfs to Kiriko and Mercy. Ana has risen to the top of both top 500, and honestly, everybody else. Let's put her in A+ here. She's the most flexible support in terms of hero synergy and composition, right? She pairs really well with all the meta tanks and a lot of the supports for the support duo, such as Ana Brig, Ana Kiriko, Ana Mercy, and many more. I have a support duo tier list on the second channel. We can pop that up on the screen. Oop. All right, Baptiste. I would say he's super meta with Sigma and Ramattra comps, but maybe not so much with the other dive tanks. And though he's still somewhat playable with those dive tanks, depending on the map. But with the meta at the top 100 level having less Ryans and Sigs this season and a lot more dive, he's naturally fallen down to B tier for that reason alone. But honestly, if no one is in voice comms for dive, you can totally just play BAP and do the carrying yourself, because he can output some crazy DPS without affecting his healing tempo, allowing you to single-handedly swing fights. Immortality field is still good. His ult is still great. Still has got super high survivability, which is valuable when the enemy team is running full dive and you have tons of tools to buy time and potentially live, especially if you don't have any peel. I listed a lot of reasons. Maybe I'm biased. I lied. I'm going to put him up to strong. For everybody else, though, I'm also going to keep him as strong. For the same reasons I listed before, there's actually less dive in the other ranks, so more Rams and more Rhines. So, I mean, they synergize a lot better. BAP window fire strike, keep it coming. Okay, Brig's buffs were a hot topic early in Season 4, but now it's been like 2.5 weeks as of the making of this video, I can safely say there was a slight overreaction on both sides. Now, I disagree with the new rally being super OP, but I also disagree with some Brig mains claiming that this version of rally and Brig is worse, right? There are scenarios where the old rally was better, but there's also scenarios where the new rally is better. And it's a lot less of a, you pop rally early and let it slowly ramp up for your team to either initiate or tempo the fight. And now your rally is more of a, oh shoot, I'm getting focused. I can instantly save myself with 100 free HP and I can play make with the stun, time it correctly, and cancel stuff, right? There's pros and cons for both. And if I absolutely had to pick a side, so I don't have to be like a neutral fence sitter, I'd actually still say these were a net buff to her. Top 500 Asia loves Brig right now. They're playing a lot of Brig in Overwatch League, and there's probably a lot more Brig players in the Asia region as an answer to the high frequency of dive. They actually do prefer dive tanks there, actually a lot more than the other regions. Overall, I am happy to see her actually showing up and getting significant playtime in high rank ladder and in Overwatch League. So again, I'm gonna put her A tier. She's actually strong in top 500, and strong, good at the other ranks. And I'll explain later because there's other supports that I think get better value than her. Kiriko is still good in top 500. I'm gonna put her in strong. She's played in a lot of comps because of her versatility. She can randomly get picks. Great healing, well, decent healing actually. Suzu is a game changer for enemy anti-nades, and Kitsune Rush is still a very powerful ultimate. For everybody else, I'm gonna knock her down a peg and put her down in B tier. She's good, but let's be real, most players aren't doinking heads as much as they probably should with her kunais. Lifeweaver, ooh, it's been a hot topic in Season 4, and even after playing with his control changes and buffs, still a niche pick in top 500. I personally played over 60 games in top 500 since he got put into competitive earlier this week, and I probably saw a total of 4 Lifeweavers in 60 games. And there's 2 teams. My team, I didn't play him, or maybe I played like half a game on him, and the other team had two support choices. So it was 120 times the enemy team could have played Lifeweaver, and then 60 times, 180 opportunities, not including myself, to have Lifeweaver, and I saw him 4 times. The general consensus at the high elo is he's not good. And actually, in all those 4 games, the players actually ended up swapping off of Lifeweaver after a certain point. Either they got flamed or they got bullied to switch off. I even played him all day today as of the filming of this video in Skiesti's fundraiser tournament, the entire time against some pretty high level competition. It was the best chance for me to practice without getting flamed and ranked with pretty good competition. You know, I was with 5 people in Discord. calming, coordinating life grips, pedal platforms. And at the end of the day, he's still mediocre. I was getting absolutely blasted. Like, Emong on the D.Va was just punishing me so hard. I was getting owned by Fitzy, Sombra, Boger, Winston dive. His hitbox is just punished way too hard at this elo. Like, the good Sombra Tracer dive coordination eats him up. That being said, there were some flashes of some sick defensive playmaking, and I can actually see him being like a buff or two away from being a reliable choice. But at this time, he's gonna stay in D tier. In the middle ranks or the lower ranks and everybody else, I'm gonna lump them all together. I know, like, you know, Diamond is not considered low rank. I'm actually gonna say he's not bad. He's actually gonna be put in C tier. Like, seriously, not bad. We know Lifeweaver's damage numbers aren't great, and that's generally the case actually overall for silver and gold players on even the other supports, right? Silver and gold players, for example, in the metal ranks weren't doing much damage on heroes like Ana, Bap, Kiriko to begin with, and Lifeweaver's healing is actually pretty good now. It's reliable. That's the biggest thing. You can't really miss. Like, think of your silver Ana. It's a 75 HP healer, right? Scope in, or they unscope shot, they actually heal once, but then they miss the next two. Miss, hit, miss. There's inconsistency. But Lifeweaver is a guaranteed hit every time. You charge it, you aim, it's so forgiving, it'll auto arc all the way to them. And consistency at these ranks especially goes a long way. His giant hitbox won't be punished as hard as well, since coordinated dive and good target focus is less frequent here, which is, you know, hopefully how I justify putting him in C tier, and maybe hopefully you guys agree. Lucio is still played in top 500 quite a lot, and he's great with Ramattra, Junkrat Queen, Ryan, or anyone who really needs to get in fast. And his support pairing is usually Kiriko with some other flex options in some dive comps, such as with Winston, right? Kiriko, Lucio, Winston, pretty good. He's slippery, versatile, hasn't really been changed in Season 1. Decent showing in the top 100 leaderboard. Put him in A tier. He's strong. For everybody else, though, I'm actually going to keep him in B tier. Still good. The win rates look pretty healthy across most ranks. Okay, Mercy had a cryptic patch note in Season 4 where it was kind of hard to decipher what it meant, but all in all, TLDR, the Guardian Angel movement is actually nerfed when doing movement tech, and you're slightly punished for it on the GA. You get a bit of a longer cooldown, and that longer cooldown is important at the top 500 level. And when you compound that with the nerf to the less than half health people, and actually her strong DPS pairings who actually got nerfed, like Ashe, right? A lower frequency of bobs, Sojourn not being as frequently played anymore as well. I think those compounded together naturally kind of brought her down to B tier in top 500. I actually think I see way more Ana, Kiri, Bap, Lucio, or get to Zen after, Briggs, Ana Brig, a combination of these than Mercy these days. There's a lot of Mercy mains who just exclusively play Mercy, so when you look at the leaderboard, you're just going to see some people who just play Mercy, and that's fine. B tier is still a good tier to be in, right? So no worries there, but I actually think she's good, but certainly not as strong as she used to be. For everybody else, though, she goes up, actually. Okay, I fixed the alignment. For everybody else, she's still strong in A tier since she has both reliable healing and the res is easier to pull off, especially because the enemies aren't paying as much attention and they're not actively looking for her sometimes in the chaos and heat of battle here. And since she's not being focused as much here in these lower elos, she probably doesn't have to GA as often as she does in the upper ranks, resulting in your average player likely not even noticing that slight nerf to the Season 4. Well, I'm sure they read it and they've heard about it, but maybe they won't necessarily feel it as much. But all in all, I actually think she's quite strong still at these ranks. Okay, Moira, Season 4 buffs, where she can now fade and coalescence. Actually, really good. It mitigates a major weakness in Moira's ultimate, where she could either get hacked, stunned out of it. It's like the coalescence is guaranteed value right now, and she's a strong solo queue response, solo queue ranked hero response to like all the tracers running around, because you can suck her off and force her to recall a lot easier. She has high survivability. Her healing is great when your team is clumped up. You can actually run some pretty deadly death ball comps with Lucio, Moira, in combination with like Ram, Ryan, Junkrat Queen. Honestly, I don't know if all my top 500 friends will agree with this, but I actually think she's strong in A tier. Even the leaderboard may not reflect this right now because of her boring playstyle. You just naturally won't have too many players playing Moira because she's not that popular of a hero, but that does not mean she's bad. I actually think she's good. At every other rank, A+. Very strong, seriously, for the reasons I listed before, of course. And honestly, that flanking TikTok Moira style is actually really good at this elo. It makes a lot of space. As long as your other support understands this and is playing around it and your team is on board, and like the whole meme of Moira not doing any healing. I actually spectated the rank 1. This guy hit rank 1 Moira player named Nolan on the North American ladder. And I had him actually answer questions from Twitch chat in this video on how he does it, his playstyle. He actually explains he doesn't, like, while he's flanking, like, he doesn't just sit in the backline permanently, but there's times where he has to heal his team, and he knows to heal orb more often than actual damage orb. That's only there to punish. In any case, you can watch that video. I'll link it in the description. That one's a good one. You'll learn a lot from that. Okay, finally for Zen. He's strong in top 500. Actually, really strong. Depending on the matchup, though. When enemies are running front-to-back linear compositions with no off-angle flankers like Tracer, Zen is like A+. But averaged out because of all the extra dive, it's kind of dependent on the dive and their execution. I'm going to still keep him in A tier. Like, if he is getting triple dough by, like, Tracer, Sombra, and Winston or Doom, there's actually nothing you can do about that. Your team either has to recognize that they have to hard peel, or you get to trade back lines. But you as the Zen player, you have to recognize when you can't play him. But like overall in ranked play, he's got good pairings with Kiriko, Bap, Anna, sometimes Mercy, and sometimes Brig, depending on your comp. So Zen Discord Orb, very frustrating to play against, and that's why he's really good. His ultimate's still good, does a lot of DPS, good solo queue hero. Everybody else, B tier, good. He probably won't get dove as hard at this rank, and he's probably not hitting his orbs as often as the Zen player, and you know, his own team probably isn't focusing the discorded target, so it all averages and evens out. Anyways, that is my list. I know half of you guys skipped right here to the end to see the whole thing at a glance. Katya in 4K, taking a picture of you right now. But jokes aside, if you're curious on why I ranked the heroes where I did, just skip to the timestamp of that hero and listen to my explanation and see if that kind of resonates with your opinion. It's fine if you disagree. I'm just one person. But let me know why in the comments, because I enjoy reading them as well, and it helps with engagement and discussion. Friendly discussion, hopefully. Anyways, have a great day. Subscribe if you haven't. Peace.